an inside look at the restaurant industry and entrepreneurial insight to help you succeed. It's the Paper Trails Podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.
All right, guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to the Paper Trails Podcast with your host, me, Nick Algaramitros. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you for plugging in, whether you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcast, or you're watching this on YouTube. Or super pumped to have you guys in. Just so you guys know, if you guys haven't yet, if you enjoy this content and you haven't yet liked or shared or subscribed to our channel, we would love to have you guys as a permanent viewer of our Paper Trails podcast. But anyway, if you guys are just plugging in for the first time, just so you guys know, we are a podcast all about business ownership, entrepreneurship. We're based here in the Charlotte and greater region. My cousin and I, as most of you guys know, own a paper company, and we are involved in the food industry. And today we have a very good, awesome guest. Also, this is episode 18, but we have a very good friend of mine and guest. We have Osman Qasim. Qasim. And, Osman, I've known Osman for 7 or 8 years now. They've been great customers of mine. Osman owns a chain of Domino's in the, Carolinas, in North Carolina, or Carolinas. Carolinas. And so, and I'm super pumped to have him on just to talk about his story, how he started in the industry, because I know that we can gain so much wisdom and knowledge just from people's backgrounds and stories, and you guys are in for a treat today. And so, Osman, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. And so let's start maybe from the beginning, Osman. Where are you from? Let's start there. Where are you from originally?
Originally from Pakistan,
okay.
And I was obviously born and raised there, and came here to States at right about age 20.
Okay.
So I was 20 years old.
So born and raised there.
Born and raised, went to high school and all, and it was a boarding school, which was kind of one of the fancy places to go.
Okay.
And so learned a lot of early development of life and development of things.
What did your parents do there? I'm just curious.
My father was a civil engineer,
okay.
And he was at the tail end of his career. He was actually the chief engineer in the province for the province. So
okay.
He was a civil engineer by profession.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and mother was a homemaker. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it was a wonderful childhood growing up, and kind of around after high school, we just. Some personal matters, but mostly really school related. Decided to engineering was to be my background, or
okay.
was to be my education. So, and although I have another bent, and that is I love to fly, so that was going to be engineering was going to help me get my airline pilot job.
Okay.
So. Anyway,
so you've always loved flying?
I loved flying since age 8, when my father took me on a little airplane ride at a local in our little hometown in Peshawar, Pakistan. I was a little 8-year-old boy, and the local flying club, they call it flight club, it was a flight school, flight club.
Yeah.
They would give rides around the city for a 30-minute ride in a Cessna, I think was a Cessna 182 or a 206.
Yeah.
And I'd never been in a single engine type airplane until that, obviously, little 8-year-old.
Uh-huh.
And so I remember sitting up, my father put me to the right of the pilot, and of course he sat in the back.
Yeah.
I remember with him, the pilot was showing us the town around the 30-minute ride.
Yeah.
And I was just more enamored with what this pilot is. How is he operating this amazing machine?
Yeah.
And
you fell in love.
I fell in love. I totally fell in love. And I remember a few months after, although it was 7 months later, my father passed away.
Okay.
But within that, sometime between that ride and his passing, I remember walking down the street with him, and he said, he asked me, what do I want to do when I grew up? So, and I was this little boy holding his little finger and, walking down the street. And, and I said, an airplane driver or a truck driver.
Okay.
And he said, well, maybe you should want to stay on to the path of the airplane driver. So, so much for that. So, anyway, that's how it was. And,
okay. Now, did you always want to come to the States for education? How did that even, was that a goal? Was that, your parents wanted? How did that even happen?
No, it was really mother passed away right at high school age, about age 18 or so for me, right before. So there was kind of a confluence of all the timing and all that to say, well, okay, now what school, college, university is next?
Yeah.
And so a friend of mine actually suggested hey, why don't you go to engineering school in States? And I said, oh, okay, maybe that's a good idea.
Okay.
So anyway, went to the local American Center and got the information about local universities and applied several, and that process came about, and so ended up at NC State. So
nice.
That's how it was.
Was that just what you? Was that because engineering is pretty prominent in NC State,
Yes,
isn't it?
It is, yes.
So is that just because of that, or how did NC State become the
really,
decision?
It was truly a roll of the dice between Purdue, Ohio State, and they were all names to me. I mean, we didn't have the history like we all know now of what all these great schools mean, but at the time it was just, I was a little boy in Peshawar who was just going through a book of universities, just take a book,
you're just
back
picking.
Back in the early mid-'80s. So anyway, and it just worked out to where NC State was the most welcoming, and whatever, the program worked and all that direction worked for us.
Now, did you come here before you went to school, or when you came here, like did you visit?
No,
so
it was
NC State. Okay, let's see how this goes.
As we go, yeah. So it was. I landed at Kennedy Airport, New York, with about just less than $1,000 and a little bag of clothes and one semester of tuition paid up. That's all I had at the time. So, worked, and that's all it was, a little bag of clothes, and that's what it said. Actually, we started with $1,000 in Pakistan and had a little layover in Frankfurt and bought $17 worth of candy. Chocolates at a fancy, candy store. I don't know. I guess it was Godiva. I don't remember. But and so I really landed with less than $1,000.
Listen, it's and I mean, I guess not to fast forward too much, but to know that, I didn't know that. To know that and to know like where you came, I mean, it's a tremendous story. But anyway, so how's your experience at NC State?
Oh, it was wonderful and amazing, and of course, struggle as well. Because obviously I was working my way through, started delivering pizzas at Domino's. It was total coincidence.
Okay. What years is this?
This is 1985.
Okay.
Yes, late 84, 85.
Okay.
Yes. And so the story, I just say this, I was a broke college student and just tired of having lunch with French fries only. So I wanted to buy a burger for lunch, and so I had to get a job. And at the time, it was local classifieds. You looked up, and I didn't have a car.
Okay.
And looked up the little ad, Domino's looking for drivers. And frankly, at the time when I came from Pakistan, at the time back late '83, we did not even have pizza places. Now the whole country is flush with pizza places, including Domino's, by the way. But back early '80s, so there wasn't. So I really didn't fully understand what this whole thing was, pizza and delivery and all this was about. Okay. All I knew, I had a car and a license, and I could find a street on a map, and I could just...
an actual map, ladies and gentlemen. There was no GPS yet. I mean, it was...
Oh yeah, you had to look up the index. Okay, 123 Main Street. Okay, where's Main on box B4, and then you look it up in the square, and then okay, that's where I'm going. So
that's awesome. So it was a part-time gig at Domino's. Okay,
it was a part-time gig at Domino's, and of course at the time, then along the way, I started taking flight school.
Okay,
so I was doing
while in college.
While in college, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So
you were serious about this passion.
Oh yeah,
like this wasn't just, hey, it would be cool if. No, like you wanted to become a pilot.
That's right. Yes, I was going to become a pilot. Yes, I was determined. That was my path.
That's awesome.
That was path. But although just kind of not to go back further anymore, but school growing up, we unfortunately back in different culture, different society, different world, we grew up, or at least in the high school years, we thought we were given like two choices at the time. It was such an unusual place that either you're going to be a doctor or an engineer.
In Pakistan?
In Pakistan, in this particular school, which was a kind of a special place to be.
Okay.
So we didn't know. Of course, now we know we thought there was only two ways of making a living.
Yeah.
Either if you like biology and zoology and botany, you're going to go the pre-med path, and if you like math and physics, you go the pre-engineering path. Okay. So I liked physics enough. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be an engineer. We didn't know there was third, fourth, and 500 and 5,000 ways of making 100%. A living. So, and here, fast forward here.
Yeah. Okay, so you're studying engineering.
Yeah.
You're working part-time. you're taking, you know, all your flight classes and all that.
Flight,
you know,
yeah, flight
did you become a pilot while in college?
I got my private pilot license in college.
Nice.
Yes. And of course, it was a struggle balancing finances, etc., all of that. So took a little break in between college to keep the whole boat afloat.
Sure.
Personal boat, that is. And so along the way, while I was still delivering pizzas, the local franchise owner at the time, I had for that summer I'd come to Greensboro area and High Point area, and the local franchise owner saw me delivering pizzas all the time or often, and so he would ask me to come. Why don't you come work for us full time? And I would think, like, I think I've got better plans in life than want to be a full-time driver for you.
Sure.
So, and I felt like a little obligated to kind of responding to him. So one day he called me while I remember I was at home and on my day off or so, and I remember he said, well, would you come see me on next Wednesday? I said, okay. So now I knew what he was wanting to ask me for, and that was to come work full-time for him. I was working about 25, 30 hours a week at the time delivering pizzas. And so I had a game plan that I said, well, okay, I will go in. He'll ask me for come work full-time. I'll say, I will work so if you put me in your management program. So that was my way out.
Okay.
Little did I know, so when, of course, after the initial cordials, he asked, so have you been thinking about, I asked you to come work full-time.
Yeah.
I asked you a couple of times, have you thought more about it? I said, yes, Scotty, I have. And I will do so if you put me in your management program.
Yeah.
And he said, that's exactly what I'm asking you for.
Nice.
Oh, I stuck my foot in my mouth. So now I was cornered. Now I had nowhere to go. So that was my kind of, and that's my first accidental step into the.
And that's while you're in school. Like, have you finished yet? Or not yet?
No, I had not finished at the time. No, it was the summer off, and I was recovering from keeping things going. Yes.
Nice. Yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit. So you're full time working. You're in management program, and then how do things progress into, you know, having a first store? How does that happen?
Yeah, so took almost a year off and then went back to NC State, and I'd been a manager in the meantime, so I'd gotten my 1 year, more than a year of required Domino's requirement for manager.
Sure.
At the time I didn't know I was going to be in this route, however
Sure.
I had an experience of being a general manager for a store.
Okay.
Went up through the ranks quickly through the assistant manager program.
Sure.
I think I was like within 6 months I was a general manager.
Okay.
I guess they liked me enough.
Yeah, there you go.
Or I worked hard enough, or some combination of both.
Both.
So, and then I went back to NC State, and I remember as I was finishing up my last couple of months of it, I said, what am I going to do? I still, at the time I had gotten most of my flight training ratings, flight pilot's licenses, but I did not have enough hours to be hired by a local regional airlines. This is how you start.
So you're still thinking.
Yeah.
You're still planning.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You will be a pilot.
I'm going to be a pilot. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I was back to kind of part-time delivering while trying to finish school.
Yeah.
At NC State and back in Raleigh. So, and I remember at this last minute, I said, okay, I still got 2 years worth of time to build to be eligible to be hired by the airlines. And so, what am I going to do in these 2 years in between? I'm, kind of when we're finishing school, so I'm not going to go for my PE. That's just for 2 years. It's kind of doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
I'm still so driven by wanting to be airplane driver.
Sure.
So, and so I remember just I'd been late one Saturday evening. I said, "Oh, I can open a Domino's store because I'm eligible for it, and I'll do this for 2 years, accumulate a little bit of money, and then build my hours along the way.
Okay.
Flying as a flight instructor.
Yeah.
And build my hours, and then 2 years later, I'll sell my first Domino's store, and then I'll go back to live happily ever after flying an airplane."
Okay.
So that was the game plan.
Okay.
And that was 1989.
All right.
And the rest is essentially history, because as I opened my first store in Lewistown, Pennsylvania, was my first. I drove
Pennsylvania.
up. Yeah, I drove up. It was a local. Yes. Found this little town in Pennsylvania that still did not have a Domino's. There still were very few. I mean, comparatively, there were only 4,000 Domino's, 3,500 or 4,000 Domino's stores at a time. So now there's over 6,000 in the country, in the States. So that was the first store. Drove my little.
Now they picked that store for you? How did that work? How did you end up?
They just made the announcement that this town, Lewistown, is available to be franchised. That was it.
Gotcha.
So I was this relatively young, wet behind the ears, 25 years old, 26 years old. Didn't know, frankly, much about business other than having run a Domino store for about a year and a half or so prior. So in my little Nissan car, I drove up to Lewistown, PA, and I walked into the local, after local bank, and I said, well, I'm a Domino's franchisee, and I'm going to open a Domino store. I needed to borrow some money from them. I had a little bit of cash built up, saved up, etc. And so that was kind of my first break, really. I remember, still remember the name of the gentleman, Jack Morgan, at Juniata Valley Bank. We'll never forget some names in life,
100%.
Right? He just kind of heard my story until that time. It was May, June 1989.
Okay.
He heard my story. Who am I? Where am I from? Basically, kind of more or less what we just already discussed.
Yeah.
And about an hour or so, 45 plus minutes of sitting together with Jack said, Osman, we don't do these kind of loans, and I really should not be doing this loan, but something about you and your story resonates with me,
That's awesome.
And I'm going to do the loan for you.
That's awesome.
And that was like, I gave me goosebumps, like, oh, okay, really? I was just, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And this was late 80s, when money was quite tight compared to where 2020 now, with all the stuff going on in the world. Money was very tight, where even the existing franchise owners, when they heard I got a loan from a local bank, they were like, how did you do that? I said, I don't know, I just went and asked, and so
there you go.
It worked.
So you get the loan, you start the first store. How long were you there? How or actually, you know what? How was the first month, 6 months, year? I mean, because I know in the beginning of any business, it's not the easiest. Like you got to figure stuff out. You got to get financing. There's a lot of things that you have to figure out. So what is?
Yeah, so here's the one thing I know, the whole purpose of this podcast, and you're like trying to hopefully get, I have my daughter over here in front of me, and we all learn from each other.
Sure.
And this is my success, or whatever levels we may call it a success it is the whole story is about having the reasonable confidence in you, a lot of humility within yourself, and either not recognizing the failures or just saying, I will not fail.
Yeah.
So I think I have to say at relatively younger age at the time, I would say I was too dumb to think that I can fail.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I always had the confidence within myself to say, I think what I put my hands into will make it work, because I know how to work my tail off.
Yeah.
That's the whole key, was about working the first 6 months, I remember I worked open to close, which was from basically essentially 10 a.m. to almost 1 a.m. for 4 months in a row, nonstop.
Wow.
4 months in a row of working, it was 110 hours a week or so. And it was truly miserable, even at that youthful age where you can do anything. You can work 24 hours a day. But anyway, so I got my first day off almost 4 months in. And
but that's, to point something out, Osman, that's the sacrifice it takes. I mean, even when we started, the paper company, and I was 22 years old, like my friends at 22, 23, 25, they were getting corporate jobs and making money and buying, their college graduate cars. I didn't. I drove, still to this day, Honda Accords and Camrys, because they were the best on gas, and I traveled, and I was a road warrior. I had to go build it. I had to go put my business on the map. And so there is some sacrifice. I mean, in the end, there's some perks, obviously, to having a business. But in the beginning, there's a lot of sacrifice. Like, a lot of people aren't going to be willing to do what you did, right? 4 months, 110 hours, like that is, what is it, 168 hours in a week?
168 in a week, yeah. So you barely have 50 left for sleeping, eating, everything.
Yeah, you're sleeping and going back to the store. So
literally, yeah.
What a story. So, okay, so the first 4 months, you're doing everything. You're setting the processes in place. You're finding the people. You're training them with your 1.5 year experience and delivery and all that. And so, was the first year a good year? Was it a success? I mean, how,
We were fortunate. The first year was a successful year.
Awesome.
And that's where the franchise and the name brand comes into play. It was not Osman's Pizza, it was Domino. So It was a known brand and known. People were hungry for it, so
Sure.
to speak, or ready to receive a Domino at the time. So, however, we still had to produce the right product and serve the customers correctly.
Sure.
I mean, just the name alone does not sell. After
Sure.
the first bad experience, they would go away, as we all know from your restaurant experience in life and your family. So we had to serve and do it well and to where customers. So the first year was, fortunately, was successful.
Awesome.
And that kind of gave us the foundation to continue building forward. Yeah.
Now, like, where do you go from there? Or how long did you have that? Did you have that store for a while, or did you move back down here?
Yeah, almost 4 years. In mid-93, we came back down to North Carolina. I always had special affinity for this area and all. And there was, of course, there's growth opportunities here. There was not much left to grow in that part of Pennsylvania at the time. So it was good. I got the opportunity to purchase 4 stores here in mid-90, late 93, 94. Early 94.
Which stores is that?
They were actually Albemarle, right there, your home or your office area. Albemarle, Salisbury, right here we are, and Concord and Kannapolis.
Nice.
So this was a close pocket, all 30 minutes or so from each other. And so these, wonderful place to live and raise family right here in Salisbury area, Albemarle area, etc. So these were the original 4 stores, and even that was a big jump going from a single 1-store owner to a 4, because it is a big.
How now? Explain that. What's the mindset difference? What do you have to? Are you depending on your team, finding the right people? How does one go from a single store, because we have people that are listening to this that maybe have a landscape company and it's just them, but they'd like to maybe bring on a couple crews, right? When you go from just you or one store to a multi-store location, how does that, how is the learning curve?
Yeah, so the key in all that for me was, I think you just have to kind of use your good intuition, and have to have built intuition, and have to have built good common sense.
Sure.
And to have thought through, I do read a lot. That's part of myself, my existence. So I read business books or biographies and autobiographies and all. So you kind of learn get the variety of understanding of what makes successful people click, what makes them work, what makes leadership work. And leadership of 4 Domino stores is leadership in its own way, as it may be for Starbucks Corporation running tens of thousands of stores, or the leader or the political leader in the country. However it might be, just kind of you're inspiring people to do some things appropriately to what the direction for the vision for the company is. So I just felt instinctively that it was going to be not about me personally. It's always about the success or helping people build up to be their best.
Sure.
At the time, I frankly, I would not have been able to enunciate as I'm being able to do so now. I just did it without really knowing what I was kind of recognizing. But this is what we did, was just help, and above all, for all of us entrepreneurs in general, this is the whole entrepreneur's dilemma, is to, like, when do you let go?
Yeah.
Let go of the little things and not worry about it.
Delegate.
Learning to delegate, and that's, personally for me, that did not come as too hard. For some, I know, for some good entrepreneurs, that's the bigger hump in life. So you just have to trust the humanity and the seriousness of the person that you come across. I trust in him. I think he's not my clone, or she is not, does not have a sense for everything that I see things, but I think there's enough I can build into them and give my guidance and impart my knowledge and understanding and aspire them and inspire them to be their best self. And once we start to do that, truly for our success today, even fast forward 25 plus years later, and today I'll just say this, that even to this is that inspiring people for them to be successful, my success for whatever little it is, it comes because our people are successful in our team throughout the state of both states of North and South Carolina.
Yeah, a couple of points to that. I remember reading a book a long time ago. Zig Ziglar wrote it. It's called See at the Top, and he says if you help enough people get what they want, you'll automatically get what you want.
Perfect.
And so I like that. And then something else that you said. I guess being in talking to owners and being in this industry, the difference, I think, what you were saying is between a business owner and an entrepreneur. A business owner has to do everything. An entrepreneur understands how to delegate and how to, be able to give some responsibilities. And that's quite frankly how you duplicate and really able to scale something when you empower people, right?
Exactly, yes. You have to, if you want to scale up. Otherwise, you just stay with one store, one store or one office or one location or whatever. If you really want aspire to scale up, you have to develop people
100%.
and bring the best out of them.
Now, when you bought these 4 stores, did you sell Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay, so you sold that.
I was done with that.
Okay,
yeah.
Came down here and kind of planted your roots in this area.
Yes.
And so and that was 93.
Late 93, yes.
Okay, when you came down here. And so, tell us from 93 on, I mean, was it just a gradual increase in store? How were you able to progress and sink your teeth and build a foundation here, to where you're at today?
Yeah, it was, it was another layer of struggle, almost a different version of those 4 months of nonstop, 110 hours a week type.
Yeah.
It was a different version of it, but it was a struggle of these stores were not doing so well, and they were a distressed situation when I purchased them, and then gone from 1 to 4 is a total, like you mentioned, it's entrepreneurship level. Now you're trying to build people to do this rather than roll your sleeves up and say, okay, get out of my way, I'll fix it for you.
Yep.
Or I'll fix it here. I can't fix 4 things, cannot be in 4 places at the same time. So it was, I believe it was almost 98, so 4 years. For 4 years we operated these 4 stores and got them to do well and operate them well and to take care of our customers and focus on the consistency of the product and focus on it.
What's the big difference? What were you able to do in those 4 years to take, so if somebody has a business right now that maybe is struggling, right, what are some ingredients that you think that it takes to turn something from maybe a distressed situation to more of a thriving? Anything that you can think of, maybe that, culture, people, process,
Culture, people, and process, but I will say mostly and everything essentially revolves around the culture of who you are as a person, as an entrepreneur, and what you want this company to be. It's not about me. It's never been about me, and it shall never be ever so. It's about the success of our people. So the culture is about, hey, we are friendliest, our mission, and truly our mission for our company, Team Carolinas, is friendliest mission on the people to be the top-rated, top performing franchise in all of Domino's.
Nice.
So, and that was kind of a mission, not probably said differently, but it was just essentially friendly people. We work together, we enjoy what we do, and we're going to stay focused. So the whole thing is about the culture of being focused and energized towards achieving one goal, and that is to be the best. And best is very vague and broad, and you can say it in many different ways, but you just put down your 3 metrics and say, these are 3 things we're going to achieve. Be it the sales growth, or be it the customer satisfaction, or highest profitability, whatever the rankings, however you want to choose to measure yourself, but stay focused, and consistency is the key. And so people want a leader with a backbone, or an owner with a backbone who stands for something and seriousness. So, and that's what is the key to what we've been able to achieve.
I love that because I think it speaks to how important leadership is. Right, and I've heard it many times from John Maxwell saying everything rises and falls on leadership. That's where people are looking to you for some answers and some guidance and a vision. You know what I mean? And so I love that. So you turn the 4 stores around. It's 1998, right? Now you've got some good operating stores. They're making some money. They're following the mission and the vision. Then how do we progress from there?
So then we just had opportunity to come up to purchase the 2 neighboring stores in Iredell County, Statesville and Mooresville.
Nice.
And so that was mid or so 98. Added those, so now we had grown by 50% from 4 to 6.
Sure.
And that was at the time it felt like a large leap. It certainly was. So
do you remember that feeling?
I remember that feeling.
You remember actually having those conversations and
you're
thrilled?
Oh, really? I was thrilled. I remember the franchise owner I had worked for had 6 stores before he retired, sold out and retired.
Okay.
Quite early actually for his age at the time. But I felt like, oh my gosh, our company is about as big as Scott Cox.
I love
that.
that.
So that was wonderful in its own self. It was a little like I had reached a certain milestone
It's a little
my
benchmark.
mentor. Yeah. So it was a big achievement, big step at the time, and so.
How old are you then?
That would have been 28, 29.
I mean, that's
20,
an incredible feat. I mean, six stores at 29.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me.
Was it 90?
I'm sorry. 36.
36. So 36. I mean, you got 6 stores.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing to
98. Yeah.
So anyway, how was there any large transition from 4 to 6, or you just kept implementing some of the same things that you did from 1 to 4 to 4 to 6?
Yeah, I think we had the foundations for our company, our culture were in place. So then it was a different type of growing and continue to build a business. And more of the people development piece was more at play than, again, the basics of the nitty gritty and of everyday.
So probably less tactical, more philosophical and mindset and investing in the people, stuff like that.
Investing in the people, yes. And again, most important is not to get too mired in small stuff, to keep the big picture in mind. A certain manager needs an extra, they want to take a vacation for a week, and maybe if you don't have a vacation policy at the time, you're not that big enough yet at the time. So just be nice, be kind, and someone who's working hard for you for 51 weeks a year, give them, just say, go take a vacation, I got you covered. Of course, we have all of those programs in place, things in place now, but at the time these were kind of.
But early on, yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah, and not get too small-minded about little things. Be generous, be open-hearted, be big-hearted, and it all comes back. Whatever you give comes back in heaps back.
100%.
So if you're generous and you have big heart and are giving in nature, giving mean not necessarily giving, but from a philanthropic point of view, but just kind of being open about it and generous about it. People will respond in kind, and it becomes truly a family mindset to build a business.
I love that. There's so many gems in what you said right there about, paying it forward and giving and sowing and reaping, and what you give, it'll come back. I mean, it's how it works. And so I love that. So that was in 98, and so obviously fast forward the last 22 years. I mean, could you have imagined? At 36 years old with 6 stores, hitting that benchmark, could you have imagined where you guys have come the last 22 years?
No, no, not at all. I am still amazed at what our team has been able to achieve.
100%.
It's not me, and how we built, how the team has come together nicely over the years. So many people have been here for such a long time, for 15, 20 plus years. And if you would have said that this is where you'll be at 22 years later from 98, I would have said, no, absolutely not possible. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And here we are with a nice, beautiful footprint across the state, one of the top franchises, Domino system in the country.
That's so awesome.
Both size doesn't matter as necessarily as in terms of performance. We feel good about who we are and how we are operating at the highest level, and we still have ways to do to get even better. Yeah, for sure, yes.
That's incredible. I know the last 7-8 years we've known each other, you guys have made such leap and bounds. I mean, even the location that we're at, you guys recently, put a new store here in Salisbury, and you've just found a good property, remodeled it. You got beautiful offices here. I'm blown away at the quality of everything, the quality of your people now. I mean, we've worked together, and I've got different contacts within your organization, and everybody I speak to is just such a first class, hey, how can we partner up and work together? What can we do, to mutually benefit from the relationship? I mean, it's been, on our end, it's been absolutely incredible, and so I guess maybe in wrapping up, Osman, what what are some things, if somebody's out here listening, whether they're, in college, kind of how you were, and you kind of got your first taste in, of working at Domino's and kind of, getting into management really early on, or if somebody maybe is in their 30s or 40s and they've had some experience in corporate or that life, but they'd like to transition into doing their own thing, whether it's a, IT company, software, landscape, dry cleaners, restaurant, food truck, catering, doesn't matter, what are some things that we can suggest to these to people listening that they can take and really think about to implement before they make their first next 5 moves? What are some thoughts as far as planning, preparation, financing, living below your means, making concern. I mean, what are your thoughts on all that?
I think all of that is absolutely important. You've got it all in a nutshell, that this is all that is important. Living below your means is important. Once you start spending money, understand your finances. We've not touched on that.
It's important.
Your bank account is not your financial statement. So just having money in the bank account is some money which may not be your money. It may be sales taxes that you've collected on behalf of the government or the state from your customers that are just due for 5, 10, 20 days later. Or be it payroll that is due, that the folks have already worked and your payroll is coming up on Friday. So whatever it is, you really understand your P&Ls. That will be just kind of one. I can go on, and you don't have enough time today for this, but so that would be one.
It's a really good point, though.
Yes.
I mean, that's where I see a lot of people get caught in restaurants because, a lot of times it's a cash business, and they think, oh, what's in the register is what we made.
That's right.
Not really.
No, exactly. And what you made in the register, or I'm putting whatever $1,000 or $7,000 in the bank today, or anything, and that does not mean that that's your money. Whatever your margins might be for restaurant business, we're a small margin business, 4, 6, 7% on a good day, right?
Yep.
So 95% of what you're putting in is not your money. It's flowing through you. Be ready, and don't spend it. Don't go out and don't go crazy. So, but more importantly, take whatever it takes, an hour worth of class, or somebody mentor guide you to understand the financial statements.
Good.
Be it a small one-man business or a multi-location, lots of people. So. Understand a cash flow statement, other beyond a standard profit and loss and a balance sheet. So that'll be, I just say this on the finance side, you have to, your checking account is not your financial picture of your financial. That. So beyond that is find that 1 or 2 key people that can be your right-hand person to you.
Yeah.
And there's gems in the rough, as it said. And there's lots and lots of good, quality, capable people who may not have had the opportunity to go to college, maybe in some case, may not even have finished high school, but they are a good person, hardworking, they want to move forward, and they just need a little bit of support and help from any business owner, entrepreneur out there and then you impart their understanding and pass that knowledge and understanding and build them up to be the best they can be, and then help them to be the person, and that becomes the big part of the foundation for building your company to whatever, from a one-man operation, one-person operation, to whatever the size one chooses to be.
I love that. I love that because it's a two-sided thing. You got to be tactical. You have to know your numbers. You have to know the finances, the P&L, the balance sheet. You have to understand that there's expenses and there's investments back in the company. And, you can't just, after maybe 6 months, a year, whatever, go out and start spending everything that you have. It's just be wise, with that income that you are making. And then on the flip side of it, start empowering. Start training. Find that 1, 2, 3 people that you can really that is loyal, that can be your right hand man, so to speak. And so I love that. And so any last thoughts?
No, I have to say, Nick, I'm impressed with you.
Okay.
Seriously.
Thank you.
I got to know you, and over these 7, 8 some years, and I still remember the early days of us developing our conversation and business together. I appreciate all you're doing. I'm even impressed the fact that you're doing this podcast thing, right? So I am kind of the previous generation kind of person. So this is all nice and cool, and what you're doing really for people out there to learn and hear from all the various entrepreneurs. You're taking these experiences and spreading the goodness out. That is and I admire and appreciate you for all that you and your staff are doing.
I appreciate it. And this goal, this Paper Trails podcast was, just like a little bit of a vision of like, what, how can we take the stories of the little connections in the network that I have, and how can we spread the message and let people know about, hey, there's a chance for you to make it. This country's amazing, man. I mean, our family, my family, you coming from Pakistan, I mean, it's incredible what our families have been able to put together, with the proper opportunities. And so, anyway, thank you so much for being a guest. Appreciate you guys kind of plugging in and checking us out for episode 18. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Like I said, if you guys can, share it, like it, subscribe, do what you can. We're trying to build up this podcast, to just spread good, positive news that, there is, the American dream is alive, and it's an absolutely incredible way to step into business ownership, or even be a peak performer at your job. I mean, that's totally good. Or you could be that right-hand person, that number 2, number 4 within an organization, and help somebody build an empire. So anyway, good to see you guys. Appreciate you. And thank you again, Osman.